Hi guys, I'm back teaching writing again, and like Miss McCarthy was telling you last week, we are so impressed with the amount of growth that you have been showing as writers while you have been writing up a storm for your series book. So, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to really zoom in and focus on ways we can go back into our stories to do some more revising. And when we revise, sometimes we need to add things and sometimes we need to take things out. I want to teach you a strategy that's really important for writers of all ages. And you can see this image up here. And this says, don't tell me, show me. When you show your reader using tiny, realistic details, you help them to create a picture in their mind. We worked on doing this with the setting as we describe where our story is taking place. This week, we're going to go in and find some places where we can zoom in and show instead of tell what's happening in our story. I thought it might be important to kind of give you an example of what I mean when I say, don't tell me, show me. So on my next slide, I wrote a sentence that says, I got some flowers for Mother's Day. They were very pretty. I was so happy. This is a really good sentence. It's strong. You can understand what's happening. But I just told you about the flowers, that they were pretty. Were you able to get a good picture in your mind of what they looked like? Thumbs down? No, you weren't. All I did was tell you they were pretty. I didn't show you by giving you really specific, great details. So, what did they look like? I wrote it again, but this time I really tried to focus in on what they look like. So here we go. Let's read it. I got 12 beautiful long stem roses for Mother's Day. The petals were as soft as velvet and the color of sunshine. They smelled sweet and fresh. I was so happy. Do you see the difference between these two? Here I just told you they were pretty, but down here I really described them in a lot of detail so that you, my reader, can picture them in your mind. We're going to try to do that this week with some of the stories that we've written. And because it's been a couple of weeks um, since you've heard Mrs. Bird's stories, I want to share a new story that I wrote with you. And then after that, I'm going to show you a place where I thought that I could really try this show me strategy. So my new story is called A New Friend. One warm summer day, Lily was resting in her treehouse when she heard a dog barking. That's funny, she thought. What is a dog doing all the way out here? She got up to look out her window. She saw the dog. It looked bad, like it hadn't eaten a meal in days. Slowly, Lily climbed down the stairs, careful not to scare the dog. She noticed that the dog had a collar, and she bent down to read the name. Hi, Sherman, she said. Sherman gently nuzzled her arm. He was so sweet. You must be starving. Let's go find you something to eat, said Lily. She walked home with Sherman following behind her. When she got home, she fed Sherman some leftover meatloaf. He scarfed it down quickly, and then he fell asleep. Lily called the number on the collar and spoke to Sherman's owner. It turns out that he had escaped from the yard and had been missing for 2 weeks. No wonder he looks so shaggy, thought Lily. The owners quickly came to get Sherman. They were so happy to see him that they cried. Lily felt so sad to see him go, but she was happy that he was back with his family, where he belonged. The end. So I have a really good story there, don't I? I have a beginning, a middle, and end. I added dialogue so you know what my characters are saying. I told you how they were feeling, and I did my best to use descriptive details. But now, writers, when we finish a story, the work is not done. So I was thinking about a part in my story where I could improve it if I just zeroed in and gave you a little bit more information. And what I decided was here where I'm introducing the dog. I told you the dog looked bad. I even told you like it hadn't eaten a meal in days. But other than that, were you able to get a really clear picture in your mind? Probably not, right? So now I want to zoom in. I'm even going to close my eyes and I'm going to picture this dog in my mind. So he hasn't eaten in days. He's probably super skinny. He's probably dirty because he's not been at home to get a bath. Hmm. So I think maybe I can describe him. Let's try. I'm going to go right in here. I'm going to use a different color. How about blue? And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I have some room to revise. All right, the dog looked bad. Like it hadn't eaten a meal in days. All right, Mrs. Bird, I'm going to try to show you by adding some details. What if I said, got rid of this. His belly was saggy. His legs were as skinny as toothpicks. I bet you can imagine that, huh? And his fur looked like dirty mashed potatoes. Can you picture that? Oh man, this poor dog. Mm. Ooh, I know. You know what my parents used to always say to me when they said I was getting too skinny? They said, "You look like a skeleton." And they would say, "You can see your ribs." So maybe I could add that detail. His belly was saggy, his legs were as skinny as toothpicks, and his fur looked like dirty mashed potatoes. Lily could see his ribs sticking out. There we go. Let me read that again to myself. She saw the dog. It looked bad, like it hadn't eaten a meal in days. His belly was saggy, his legs were as skinny as toothpicks, and his fur looked like dirty mashed potatoes. Lily could see his ribs sticking out. Great. I think that's perfect. Now you should be able to get a really good picture in your mind of what he looks like. There might be other places in my story too that I could go back and revise. Um, but not every single sentence needs to have this much detail. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not a good thing anymore. So, what I'd like you to do this week is take a look back now. You have at least 3 stories and see if you can find a place where you could revise to tell more to really bring that picture to life for your reader. Don't forget that Mrs. Bird is here. We can do a one-on-one conference if you're having trouble finding a place to revise in your writing. I hope you'll join us for our Friday writing share, and we'd really love to see and hear places where you revised your writing. So that's your task for this week, is to go back and revise your writing to really zoom in on how you can show your reader instead of just telling them. All right, go write up a storm. Bye, guys.